Meteorologist Nathan Scott. We are hopping on here for the THV 11 Plus stream because we want to update you on the situation we have in place right now. Sleet is falling in downtown Little Rock at this time, and this is a live view from iDrive, Arkansas. This is Searcy County, Highway 67. We've got some fat flakes happening in that part of the state, but notice it's not really accumulating on the roads or even the grass, and that's just because the temperatures are above freezing for many areas. Let's go over to the weather graphics now because we were going to take a look at what's happening with the radar loop and where you're seeing snow, where you're seeing sleet, and where you're seeing rain. Lots of pretty colors on the map once again, but I want to highlight the temperatures. They're all above freezing. So even though you're seeing winter precipitation, it's not a big deal. It's not going to accumulate on the roads unless you get a quick burst of some really heavy snow or a burst of heavy sleet that may briefly add up on elevated surfaces and maybe the bridges and overpasses. That chance is low, but it is there. So where we have the blue in place, that's where the radar is saying it's snowing at this time. And that does verify into Searcy County, also into Stone County, into parts of Van Buren County, into Issaret County, Sharp County, Lawrence County, over towards Jonesboro. And then it's more of a mixed bag situation here in central Arkansas. You're probably thinking, well, how do we get winter weather when it's a few degrees above freezing? And the reason behind it is just because it is so cold just above us, upstairs part of the atmosphere. Really, it's cold enough to stay freezing or below as high as about 2,500 feet. So that's why we've got some snow happening in parts of the region, and then also where the snowflakes have melted a little bit, but then have started to refreeze into sleet pellets, which we have out there right now. We're going to give you a tour around the region, but first of all, we have designated this as a THV 11 weather impact alert just because, two reasons. It's cold out there. If you're going to be out and about, you certainly need the hats, the gloves, the scarves, because it is chilly and it's going to get your attention. But also, anytime we have sleet or winter weather here in Arkansas, of course, a lot of folks want to know what's going on. Do I have to rush home from work really quick, or can I get some chores done? You're going to be fine out there today. There's going to be some sleet, there's going to be some snow, and instead of possible, it's happening across the region. So once again, just stay aware of the potential. There could be a few slick spots, especially in the higher terrain where temperatures are close to freezing along the highest ridges. Here's the radar loop once again. Now we're going to go into more of a high resolution mode with the winter precipitation because this really highlights where the snow is heavier according to the colors here. So we call this the snow seeker part of the radar. And where the lighter blue is, that's where we have some slightly lighter snowflakes, smaller snowflakes. There's where Leslie is. That camera is right about here, so almost on the border of Van Buren County and also Searcy County. And this could be some heavy snow in Bockenberg, or it could be a mixture of snow and maybe some sleet around that region. And then as that makes its way from northern parts of Van Buren County into Fairfield County. Let me know what's happening in your neck of the woods. You can do that in several ways. You can let us know by texting your pictures, videos to 501-376-1111, or you can go ahead and post them on our THV 11 Facebook page, or also my Facebook page is another option. Now, when we take a look at where the sleet is, the ice identifier having a little more difficulty because, like I said, we do have sleet across Little Rock at this time, but it's only picking up here in Yell County, and that's just because, you know, this is an algorithm. The computer is trying to figure out what's falling, where it's falling, and sometimes it has a tough time doing that. So now we're going to switch over and we're going to go over to something known as the correlation coefficient. And I know that's a big term, but we use this when we talk about, a lot of times, tornado debris. But we can also use this when it comes to the different shapes in the atmosphere. So this one's not showing up very well. I'm going to go over here to Storm Track and I'm going to open up another radar tool. So just give me a second here, Michael, for this to open up, and then we'll switch things over. And the correlation coefficient is because the radar beam can detect different shapes in the atmosphere. So now we can go back to Storm Track 11, Michael, and this also shows what type of precipitation, different algorithm, but still gives a clear idea. We've got snow into North Arkansas, more of a mixture here into Central Arkansas. Now when I flip this over to the correlation coefficient, what we're looking at is all this pink and red area. That's where the shapes are similar. So most likely we've got raindrops happening, but where you see the bands of yellows and blues, that's where we're starting to get more of a mixture of raindrops, sleet pellets, maybe some snowflakes as well. And you see that transition zone is right across Conway, Searcy, so White County, Faulkner County, Conway County, Van Buren County, into Cleburne County, also Jackson County. So anywhere you see this area, that's as the radar beam goes up, it's going from the transition zone of probably some rain, maybe a little bit of sleet, but then getting more into a sleet and snow mixture as that radar beam goes up into the atmosphere. So you probably want to know, when is this mess all going to move out? Well, we'll go back over to the weather graphic system, and this is the high resolution rapid refresh model, or we just like to call it the HRRR. And this is what we have been using. It's been doing a good job. Did a good job for today because we did see that we were going to have some winter weather in parts of the region, but not everybody was going to see winter weather. So we'll walk you through here slowly, hour by hour, and you can see you got to have that rain gear close by. There's still going to be a period of sleet or snow, and maybe by 2 o'clock there could be that band of snow right now situated into north central Arkansas. It's going to build its way towards Jonesboro. But the temperatures are still above freezing across the region. So that's all good news because we're not expecting any road impacts anywhere here in central Arkansas. Here's 3 o'clock, still a cold rain for a lot of folks, especially south of Little Rock, Arkadelphia, Pine Bluff, certainly Camden, Monticello, and also El Dorado. But there's going to be a little bit of sleet mixed in with the rain here in Pulaski County, and then your chance of a little more winter weather precipitation goes up the farther north that you are. So the chance of seeing maybe a little more snow flakes mixed in with the sleet and rain is going to be higher for you folks in Conway, Searcy, and I'll explain why that's the case in just 1 second, because we'll take a look at some more scientific data on Storm Track 11 probably in the next few minutes. So here is 7:30. And now the precipitation is starting to exit off to the east and affecting folks into Memphis and also into Tennessee, where they're expecting the potential there could be a little accumulation into parts of Tennessee. So things will start to wind down getting into this evening for the evening rush. So the evening rush is still going to be wet out there, wet roads, not icy roads, but still wet roads can lead to hydroplaning and still can cause some slow commutes across the region, if you will. By tonight, the clouds are locked in place. And that's good news, because if we clear things out rapidly, these temperatures would drop quickly down to the 20s, and our concern of black ice and refreezing would certainly be higher than what we're expecting out there tonight, because overall, the clouds act like a blanket, so therefore the temperatures, I think they will drop below freezing by a couple degrees, but we're not talking about any chance of a flash freeze with those clouds in place. And even into Friday, I think it's going to be a tough go to get these clouds out of here. So I think we're still going to see a lot of clouds to close out the work week on Friday, but we will be dry. I'm going to switch things over now to a different type of radar. It's not as high resolution, but it also shows the temperatures across the region, because these temperatures are more localized and not so much just with what's known as ASOS, or what a lot of weather graphics uses for a cleaner look. So now it's not going to be as clean, but you get the idea. You can take this full, Michael. Temperatures are above freezing. So the temperature at Little Rock, 36 degrees. North Little Rock, 36 degrees. Little Rock Air Force Base in Jacksonville, 37. 37 in Conway, 36 in Benton, 36 in Stuttgart. So everybody is above freezing. Hot Springs, you're at 37. Mount Ida, 37. Even Mena is above freezing at 35. And of course, it's going to be above freezing down to the south. A lot of observation sites are not working at this time, where you see backyard. So we have the official observations, and then we have the observations that are more of a backyard variety that is possibly from someone's home, and they send that data to the National Weather Service and other weather observation companies that we can use that data. But notice a slight difference when we start getting higher into the ridge tops of the Ozarks. We've got 32 Armstead Mountain, 31 Devil's Knob. So therefore, there probably is going to be a light accumulation of some snow, a dusting of snow, maybe a ½ inch of snow in those locations into the Ozarks. Silver Hill. You keep going up Highway 67. Of course, you run to Silver Hill once you get past Marshall, a beautiful part of the state. They're at 34, but they were at 32. It's 34 in Blanchard Springs. Sage into Izard County went from 33 to 35. So there's not going to be a lot of places that see accumulation, but there will be the potential of a couple spots on the ridges over the mountains that could see a quick dusting, maybe as much as a ½ inch of snow, primarily on the grassy surfaces. But when you get to 31, 32, those back roads may be getting a little bit slick. And that's just the only issues I think that we're going to have across the state would be those really back roads that aren't traveled much at all, the dirt roads. They could see a light accumulation of snow over the high ridge tops of the Ozarks. So your forecast today broken down this way because with the clouds and the rain and the sleet and the snow, we're not budging much at all. I think we may have already reached our high because the rain continues to fall and that continues to keep the atmosphere cool. So we're going to be stuck to the 30s throughout the day. And then, like I said, tonight we'll drop down into the upper 20s to low 30s across the region. But let's go over to Storm Track 11 now, Michael, and he's the director behind the scenes, by the way. Does a great job. Great working with Michael. And I'm sure Tom always gives him the shout out. So, because I mean, it's a hard job listening to us and trying to, Michael do this, Michael do that. No, what are you doing that? So we are looking at, this is analysis, and it's getting a little geeky, but I just want to show what's going on here. From the SPC, this is known as the RAP model, but we're going to go ahead and take this full. I'm going to use my cursor here, Michael, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. So we are looking at the temperatures, and this is at, I believe, 925 millibars, if I'm correct. Let me just make sure. Yes, okay. 925 millibars. And if you're thinking, okay, why are we looking at this mess? Well, this is giving the profile, the temperature profile of what's happening just above us. 925 is about 2,500 to 3,000 feet in elevation. So, you're getting up to, of course, Mount Magazine is 2,700 feet or so. And where you see this blue line, that is where the freezing line is located here, because you see the numbers go from 0 to -1 to -2. That's because they're in Celsius. That's what we use in science. And then they're above freezing at that height level once you get into South Arkansas. So this tells me, looking at this analysis, and this is not real time necessarily, this is still a model forecast, but I would suspect that your freezing line is primarily slicing its way through parts of Howard County, Pike County, maybe Clark County, getting into Hot Spring County, Garland County, northern Jefferson County, northern Arkansas County, and over towards Phillips County. And that's probably where your rain versus winter precipitation is going to be located. So here in the south, the numbers are too warm because the temperatures are above freezing from 3,000 feet all the way down. So if there was some winter precipitation, it's melted into the form of raindrops. But here in central Arkansas, we have that colder layer of air that's deep enough for the sleet pellets to survive, even though our temperatures are above freezing right at the surface. So that's why we are seeing the combination of some rain, sleet, and maybe some snow, but the temperatures at the surface are still 35, 36 degrees. So if you like winter weather, this is the type of situation that a lot of people would be like, you can get away with this. If you want some snowflakes, it's pretty to watch fall and then melt and not cause any issues. That is the situation we have going on today. I'm going to go now to the 850 millibar analysis, and this is 5,000 feet and above. So when we take a look at this, once again, Arkansas, right there in the middle. And what we're looking at is where that blue line and red line are. So this tells me where the snow is likely happening across the state, because this is 5,000 feet above the surface. And where the red line is, that is the temperature above freezing. So that's why this area, remember Central Arkansas, we were below freezing at 925 at 2,500 feet or so, but we're above freezing just above that. So snowflakes are basically melting and refreezing, and that's why we have this sleet that has been developing across parts of Central Arkansas. Meanwhile, North Arkansas, the temperature profile is below freezing across the entire region. If you didn't get all that, let's just try to simplify it with this graphic, if I can find it here. Just one second, because I have so many graphics in the show. Let me see if I can find it real quick here. If I'm not, I might have to load it up. So now you're getting a little preview of behind the scenes on what we do here in the Weather Center when we're trying to come up with a show on the newscast. So now we can go back over to graphics, Michael. And we're looking at how we get different types of precipitation. Because when I was a kid, I was always wondering, okay, why is it raining when we have a temperature of 25 degrees? I'm going to get into the reason behind that right now. So, looking at the temperature profile from the surface all the way to the cloud, the two easiest types of precipitation to identify would be rain and snow, of course, because when you have rain, your temperature from the cloud all the way down to the surface is above freezing. When you have snow, your temperature from the cloud all the way down to the surface is freezing or below. Then you get things a little more complicated. What if we have snow, and that snow runs into a layer of warm air, and then that layer of warm air melts those snowflakes, but then as it gets closer to the surface, we've got a thin layer of sub-freezing air, and that happened on Monday. Well, that's where you get freezing rain. So snow melts, becomes raindrops, stays as a raindrop until it reaches the surface, and then it freezes on contact. And that's what caused that glaze of ice across the region on the trees, on some plants, and maybe even your vehicle. We don't have that situation out there today because the temperatures at the surface are above freezing. Instead, we have this situation going on where snow is melting into raindrops, and then those raindrops are freezing over before they reach the ground. And those frozen raindrops, well, that's why we have sleet, because we have enough cold air, maybe not necessarily right at the surface, but just above the surface to hang on, that these sleet pellets are making their way all the way down to the ground. So that's a little bit of a science lesson for you. All right, let's go back over to radar now, in case you're just joining us. And we got about 8 minutes until noon starts, so we'll continue there. And once again, if you're just joining us, pictures, video, reports, we always love to know what's happening in your neighborhood, and it is important. You can send them to us through Facebook, or text them to us, 501-376-1111. And also the National Weather Service wants to have your reports as well. And one of the best ways to do that, especially when it comes to winter weather, we need to know what's happening in every county. And you can do that using an app that you can download. It's a free app, and this is all through the National Weather Service. But we'll go over to Storm Track 11, Michael, and let's go ahead and show that website. It's called MPing, and it's done through the National Severe Storms Laboratory, I believe. Yes, National Severe Storms Laboratory. So you can just look up on your Apple Store or your Google Play Store for this app, and it's called MPing. And you can go in there and you can say, hey, this is what I'm seeing in my location, and it probably uses your GPS through your phone to identify where you're located, but it will take that information, send to the National Weather Service and other radar apps that you can download, and you'll see those reports pop up, which allows meteorologists like me to really verify on what the radar is seeing as ground truth, or it's kind of missing the mark a little bit. Because like I showed you, the radar is not perfect when it comes to trying to identify what type of precipitation is falling. All right, Michael, let's go back over to the weather graphics now. And I've got the radar pulled up. Once again, there's the blue, showing the potential of snow. Green, that's where it's saying it's primarily rain, but then we get into this messy mode right across central Arkansas. So this is all rain. Arkadelphia, Pine Bluff, Camden, Texarkana, Monticello, pretty much should be all rain, according to what I was looking at with those analysis of the atmosphere, according to the RAP model. And then we're getting to more of a rain that could turn over to a little bit of sleet for a period of time, then back to rain, and then maybe some snowflakes later today moving into parts of central Arkansas. But right now, the highest chance is into north Arkansas. The temperatures, though, are still above freezing for most of the state, with the exception we're at freezing in Mountain Home, freezing in Harrison, but looks like the moisture is primarily moving out. So here is the breakdown on what to expect for the rest of the day, wherever you are located across the natural state. And we are looking at pretty much snow potential for Danville, Conway, Searcy, Wynn, all this blue area. Now, I haven't trimmed this back since the moisture started to move out of parts of the River Valley and also northwest Arkansas. But snow, sleet, minor accumulations will be possible in the blue if you haven't already seen some. And when I say minor accumulations, hey, there's a little bit of snow on people's roofs or on a grassy area, or maybe you have seen it even on other places, your plants that are outside, or, it's not a big deal. It's primarily elevated surfaces that is seeing this minor accumulation. But when you get into the mountains, there could be a couple roads that do have a little accumulation on them because they are going to be colder, of course, over the higher terrain. Now here in central Arkansas, I got a wide area of pink, and it may be a little too far south because we're right on the line, Arkadelphia, Pine Bluff, of where the wintry mix is versus where it's all rain. But it's going to be all rain, and it should primarily stay all rain, I think, for you folks in Texarkana, for Holt, for Prescott, Camden, Fordyce, Rison, Warren, Monticello, El Dorado, Magnolia, Lake Village, McGee, Dumas, all those areas in the green should stay primarily all rain, with there could be a random sleet pellet. But here in central Arkansas, we do have the switch over from rain to sleet, maybe some snow mixed in from time to time. So it's just a potpourri of precipitation, not causing any problems. That is the most important thing, though, because the temperatures, once again, will stay above freezing. So Brinkley, Stuttgart, Malvern, Little Rock, Benton, Bryant, Jacksonville, Hot Springs, Mount Ida, Glenwood, and maybe also over towards Des Arc, and then towards the Memphis area. Anywhere this pink is, don't be surprised if you do hear some sleet, or maybe see some sleet falling and accumulating just a little bit. Once again, it's just a minor winter weather event, but it's interesting because it's the second one for the start of December. So we'll see what happens for the rest of the month. Things will warm up as we go into next week. And I'm going to have more on that 7-day forecast coming up live here on THV 11 at noon. So we'll cut off the streaming cast and we'll head over to CBS THV 11. And I'll see you there. Thanks for tuning in. I'm meteorologist Nathan Scott.